He said, she said, one disagreement after another, the same old story over and over again. For decades, lumber companies and environmentalists have been at odds with one another. It's time we unplug this sad and tired tale. It's time for cooperation. It's time for the Canadian Boreal Forest Agreement.
Before we had the CBFA, it was a fairly simple process. Both sides fought. The environmentalists would campaign and push the industry would resist, government would step in and come up with something that neither side liked.
Without the Canadian Boreal Forest Agreement, we go back to our corners, where government is making decisions often behind closed doors, without the information on the table from scientists or local communities, where First Nations are often cut out of decision making, where industry is guided primarily often by their profit margins and not by the ecological needs of the region. The Canadian Boreal Forest Agreement offers us the opportunity to bring all of those diverse interests together, to make sure that we have the best knowledge, the best people at the table to make the right decisions for Canada.
And it's kind of easy if you're an industrialist to say, well, the forest has to be used for jobs because people depend upon it. And it's kind of easy if you're an environmentalist to say, we have to protect the forest because we depend upon that ecosystem. The more interesting and more difficult challenge is for both of them to be held accountable for finding solutions that protect both sets of values.
We're trying to ensure that the forest industry lives and prospers, creates more jobs than ever, continues to provide products that Canadians use all the time, whether that be wood or paper, and provides products to international markets, but does it in a different way, in a way that ensures that that industry will be here in a decade, in 20 years, in 30 years.
Guards have been let down, differences cast aside. And while there's still much left to do, the way forward is clear. Conversations, negotiations, and conservation must continue. Some call it a classic Canadian compromise. We call it the Canadian Boreal Forest Agreement.
If you asked a taxi driver or a waitress or your grandmother, is it jobs or environmental protection? They always look at you like it's a stupid question. It's both. Of course it's both. And the Boreal Agreement is based upon the concept it's both, not a choice between them.
I want to be able to answer my children and my grandchildren when they look back on our generation and ask us if we did everything we could. I want to ensure that we're charting a course for them and answering some of the difficult questions. How do we ensure a viable industry in this country while also protecting the environment? That's hard work, but we can do it. And the Canadian Boreal Forest Agreement is one of the bright lights in the country where industry and environmentalists and First Nations are working together to try and find some new answers.